The USS. A lot of things surprised people about the presidential election, but this one really shocked everyone. Donald Trump got 46% of young votes, which is a huge 10% increase from 2020. He ran a campaign that seemed more modern, more relatable, and strangely in tune with Gen Z. But here's the shocking part. That youth-friendly plan wasn't made by some high-paid political advisor. It was his 18-year-old son, Barron Trump. Barron Trump just made it clear that he's no longer just the quiet Trump. He quietly ran a campaign that won over young people and then gave a speech that made the whole country talk. We'll show you his journey in this movie. Soon after Donald and Melania Trump got married in 2005, they got some big news. Melania was going to be a mom. Trump's fifth child and Melania's first was born on March 20th, 2006. His name is Barron Trump. When Barron was born, his older half-siblings were already making business moves and becoming well-known. But Barron spent most of his childhood out of the public eye. His life was very different from most, even though he wasn't famous like the other Trump kids. Born into a very wealthy family, Barron had a very involved childhood. He grew up in the $100 million top of the Trump Tower in New York City. It had gold, marble, and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over Manhattan. Even though he had every luxury you can think of, Melania made sure he had an organized upbringing. She was so involved that she famously wouldn't hire a babysitter and did all of his daily tasks herself. It was clear from a very young age that she had a big impact on his life, especially when it came to school. The Trumps were determined to give Barron the best education possible. He went to Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School, which is one of the best private schools in Manhattan, for his first year. People knew the school for having tough classes and famous students, but Barron's time there stayed mostly private. As soon as Donald Trump became president in 2016, everything changed. The whole Trump family became even more famous. Moving to Washington, D.C. was a big change, and Melania didn't make the choice without thinking it through. She decided to send Barron to St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland instead of Sidwell Friends School, where almost all of the other children of presidents had gone. It wasn't just to stand out that they broke custom. She thought that St. Andrew's would be a better fit for her son. To make things even more steady for Barron, she stayed in New York with him for months after Trump became president, letting him finish the school year before they moved to the White House in June 2017. Barron became the first child of a president to live in the White House since John F. Kennedy Jr. Barron stayed out of the public eye even after that historic move. His older half-siblings were very involved in their father's business, but he stayed out of politics and didn't show up in public very often. He did so at certain events such as the White House Easter egg roll, Trump's impeachment hearings, and the 2020 election night party. Some people couldn't help but notice his height, even though he didn't say much. He was taller than both of his parents when he was in his early teens, which led to a lot of talk about how tall he would get. The Trump family moved to Florida after Donald's presidency ended, and Barron started going to Oxbridge Academy, a private, high-class school with a tough program. The change went smoothly, mostly because Melania planned it out so well. Her top priority had always been his schooling and upbringing. No matter where life took them, she made sure he was getting a good start. Barron was the only Trump family member who stayed out of the public eye for years. He stayed out of the spotlight while his bigger half-siblings were making waves in business, politics, and the media. He only attended a few family events a year. Realistically, he was never going to stay out of the spotlight for long. He grew up in a $100 million home, lived in the White House as a child, and went to some of the best schools in the country. And when Donald Trump went on the campaign trail again, Barron finally got some attention. Barron Trump and his dad Donald have a very special relationship. At first glance, they look very different from each other. Donald is the best showman ever. He loves being in the center and the attention that comes with it. On the other hand, Barron has always been the quiet, shy one. He doesn't like being the center of attention and would rather play a more understated part. But these differences make their relationship stronger, showing that opposites can really work together to make each other better. Barron has always been clear that he doesn't want to be like his dad. Barron stayed out of the public eye and made his own way, while Donald worked his way up in companies, hosted TV shows, and finally ran for president. It's not easy to grow up in a home where everyone is always looking at you, but Barron stands out because he is calm and can keep a low profile. It's pretty amazing that he can keep calm in the midst of the chaos that is the Trump family's public life. But don't think that his quiet personality means he doesn't have any power. Donald has made it clear that Barron is important to him by talking a lot about how happy he is, of how smart and independent he is. Donald Trump's 2016 victory speech was a turning point. Barron stood by his side not just as a family member, but as someone who was becoming a public and important part of the moment. Even though they were very different, this showed that Barron wasn't just following his dad around, but was also a part of his journey. It's true that Donald likes being the center of attention, but Barron is much better at working behind the scenes. He can make a difference without being in the spotlight. His quiet, strategic impact has changed the way the Trump family does things in ways that you might not always see on stage, but are always felt in the background. When it comes to digital media, this has become very clear. Barron Trump's power goes far beyond how well he knows how to use social media and digital strategy. In a family known for having crazy personalities, he's quickly becoming a steady, calming force. Barron has been able to stay calm and centered even though he grew up in the Trump family where everything is always in the spotlight. His quiet confidence and calm personality stand out against the loud and sometimes crazy people around him, which makes him an important part of the family dynamic. The fact that Barron is real is even more impressive. Even though the world is full of interesting people, he's never been one to seek the limelight. Barron is being himself without having to make things dramatic, which is different from his hyperactive father and siblings. He is carefully and deliberately paving his own way, which makes it clear that he doesn't need big shows to make an effect. It's nice to have a calm, normal person like Barron in the family, which is known for having dramatic time. People who are sick of all the news about politics are drawn to his quiet power. What's interesting is how well Barron's job fits with how politics and the media are changing right now. Campaigns from the past depend on hey, hey. When it comes to TV ads, protests, and other public events, Barron knows exactly where young people are paying attention. He easily uses social media and the internet because he is from Gen Z. These are the places where voters spend a lot of time these days. Barron quickly understood that his dad had to go where the young people were already hanging out if he wanted to reach them. It's no secret that Trump isn't very good at social media. He's even said that he doesn't like TikTok or podcasts. But Barron knows how powerful these sites are because he grew up in a tech-driven world. He has done a lot to help connect old-fashioned political tactics with the digital world of today. When it comes to addressing younger, more tech-savvy audiences, his ability to spot new trends in digital communication or social media is very helpful. It's clear that Donald values Barron's tech knowledge. It's clear that he values his son's opinion because he says that Barron helped shape tactics. You can't say enough about how important Barron is to the family's digital presence, whether he's suggesting which sites to use or coming up with new ways to connect with younger people. Even though he's not a secret, Barron has been changing the Trump heritage in a way that's new, modern, and becoming more important. One of the most important things Barron did was get his dad into podcasting. In the last 10 years, podcasts have become very popular, and young people love them because they are long-form, real talks. Barron saw this as a goldmine, so he pushed Donald Trump to go on shows like Joe Rogan's podcast, which is something that no other campaign would have done. Barron helped his father use a whole new platform that let him meet with a bigger, more interested audience, instead of just focusing on TV and speeches. Not only was this a good idea, it was also a smart and effective way for Donald Trump to reach new people. It's not just podcasts that Barron knows how to use technology well. His dad is more surprised by how popular sites like TikTok and YouTube have become, but Barron is totally at ease in those places. It's clear to him that memes going popular, TikTok trends, and YouTube algorithms aren't just passing fads, but rather powerful ways to get people to interact with your content. It's easy for someone like Barron to do because they grew up near these sites. He knows how to use them to change the subject and help his dad's point across in a way that young people can understand. Barron has clearly made a difference behind the scenes, as this shows. Even his sister-in-law, Laura Trump, has said nice things about him, praising his brains and new point of view. He doesn't just give you empty ideas, he gives you real, useful advice. It's amazing how well Barron knows how the media landscape changes all the time for someone so young. He's not just following his family's political path, he's helping to shape it in a way that has a lot to do with the future of politics. You could feel the excitement in the air when Barron gave his first speech in public. His family has always been quiet, and he stayed out of the news while the rest of the Trump family made waves. So when he got to the microphone, everyone was interested in what he had to say. Everyone was shocked by what happened next. Barron stood there with such ease and confidence that most people 3 times his age would be jealous. He was only 18 years old. He wasn't moving around or reading from a script. He spoke so well that he seemed to be in charge of the room without even trying. This wasn't just another political speech, that much was clear. Barron was there and had a real point to make. The speech itself was a breath of fresh air in a world where politics is often like a show with lots of noise and drama. Barron's words stood out. He didn't use angry words or controversial sound bites. Instead, he talked about togetherness, strength, and accepting change. At a time when people are sick of fighting, Barron's words were real, positive, and authentic. It wasn't meant to cause fights, it was meant to bring people together and encourage them to keep going. But what really made Barron stand out was how well he got along with the crowd. This wasn't just a speech, it felt like a chat. He looked at the people in the room, recognized their cheers, and even used humor that made everyone laugh. Barron wasn't just talking to people, he was interacting with them and making them feel like they were a part of something important. And the answer came right away. The crowd went crazy, and it wasn't long before clips of Barron's speech were shared all over social media. People were raving about how calm and honest he was and how he felt like a breath of fresh air in the political world. A lot of people were quick to say that Barron seemed to be coming into his own and making a name for himself away from his famous family. It wasn't just the words Barron spoke that made this moment special, though. It was what they stood for. Barron has been the quiet one, the Trump behind the scenes for years. Still, it was clear from this speech that he's ready to step forward, share his voice, and begin making his own way. If this speech is any sign, Barron Trump is only beginning. Barron Trump is in a tough spot right now. His family's very loud, and he's been the silent member for years. He's watched as everyone talked about his dad's every move, but now that he is an adult, the attention is shifting. It's no longer just Donald Trump's son. Barron is finding out what he wants his life to be like and who he is. College is a big part of that path. He is currently going to school at NYU, which is known for having a creative, ambitious, and forward-thinking vibe. Students there question the rules, dream big, and make their own paths. This is the kind of setting that could help Barron get out from under the shadow of his famous last name. He wants to show that he can walk through doors on his own, even if the Trump name does. But school isn't the only thing that matters. Barron has been going out in public more lately. When he went to his father's inauguration, he got a lot of attention. People thought he would be quiet and maybe even awkward. Instead, he was calm, sure of himself, and shockingly interesting. That moment made me think of something bigger. Maybe, just maybe, he's ready for a bigger part. Naturally, Barron's becoming an adult brings with it its own problems and chances. His whole life has been affected by his status, attention, and the weight of a last name that is both important and controversial. Other kids can figure things out on their own, but Barron's every move is watched, compared, and sometimes rated unfairly. His latest public appearances, on the other hand, show that he's ready for this next chapter. He has a clear sense of purpose and knows how to handle the spotlight on his own terms. As was already said, schooling is very important to this process. As a student at New York University, he is surrounded by people who value freedom, creativity, and thinking ahead. In contrast to the organized world of politics and business where he grew up, college gives him the chance to see things from different points of view and create an identity that isn't just based on his family name. Barron's choice to go to a college known for having a progressive culture and a diverse student body is a strong sign that he wants to see more of the world than the one he grew up in. His growing public profile shows that he doesn't want to stay in the background forever. His first speech not only showed that he is a calm and clear speaker, but it also showed that he is a young man who knows how important it is to connect and message. He didn't rely on big claims or debate in his speech. Instead, it was well thought out, calm, and surprisingly interesting. His ability to talk in a way that felt real set him apart from politicians who often use over-rehearsed lines. It was clear that if he decides to become more public, he'll do it in a way that feels true to who he is. His upbringing as the son of a two-term president has given him a unique view on power, influence, and the media. He has seen for himself how stories are made, how identities are built, and how quickly public opinion can change. This kind of knowledge, along with his natural ability to stay calm under pressure, gives him an edge that not many people his age have. You can use that to build a career in politics, business, the media, or something completely different. He's now an adult and has the tools to make a difference in any field he chooses. Barron Trump is no longer just the shy kid who stands next to his dad at public events. He's becoming his own person, finding his voice and showing that he's ready to make his own legacy, one that's not just about being a Trump family member, but about who he is as a person.